live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, this is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. The South Sudan ambassador to Uganda is warning South Sudanese to stay at home as Ugandans vote in a general election this week. The East African Business Council is urging for lowering and harmonization of COVID-19 related charges in the region. And Miss Amna Lago, the wife of Anyanya leader Joseph Lago, has passed on in London, the family has announced. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Woja Emmanuel, and now the news in detail. The South Sudan ambassador to Uganda is warning South Sudanese to stay at home as Ugandans vote in a general election this week. Ugandans are voting on January 14th in an election widely seen as a test of President Museveni's grip on power. Tensions are already high in the run-up as numerous opposition campaign rallies have been blocked and supporters arrested. Speaking to the SSBC yesterday, the South Sudan ambassador to Kampala says South Sudanese should avoid public places to stay safe during the election period. Simon Duku says,
I ask on the South Sudanese to desist from unnecessary movement. If you have nothing to do, please stay home, and if there's something to do it now until the 13th of January. Purchase your foodstuff and keep them indoors. We have already contacted the government of Uganda, especially the Kampala Metropolitan Police, and we are going to work closely to monitor those residential areas with majority South Sudanese, so that they are protected.
With 2 days remaining for the general elections in Uganda, civil society groups have raised concerns that the poll might be marred by violence. 2 days ago, the UN Human Rights Office urged authorities in Uganda to ensure elections are free and peaceful, noting that the arrest of opposition candidates and their supporters are among several worrying developments ahead of the vote. In November, at least 55 people were killed during riots and protests over the arrest and detention of Robert Chagulanyi, commonly known as Bobi Wine. He is seen as the main challenger to President Museveni's 35-year rule in power. Meanwhile, a South Sudanese religious leader in northern Uganda has also advised the South Sudanese to be vigilant during the election. According to observers, the election campaign in the neighboring Uganda has been characterized by violence. Some South Sudanese in Uganda have reportedly returned home post-election violence. Joseph Geoffrey is a pastor of South Sudan Pentecostal Church based in one of the refugee camps in northern Uganda.
People are getting confused. Sometimes you see they can just pack up and go. But this is not the case. We know this election will not scare people because we know their ways how elections are conducted. So my message to them is let them just endure until when the elections are done. Because I know this election will not bring problem. This is the message for our South Sudanese people in the refugee camps. Those who are panicking, they say now maybe the 14th of January, bad things can happen. But this is not the case. We have experienced this election everywhere in the world because soldiers, they are protecting the country, the people, and their properties. Let us just hope that God also will take control of the people of Uganda and as the refugees who are already here.
The East African Business Council is urging for lowering and harmonization of COVID-19 related charges in the East African community. In a statement seen by iRadio, the Regional Business Council says this will ease the cost of doing business and boost intra-East African trade. It is also said to support businesses to be more resilient and rebound amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. My colleague Kelly Abale reports.
Currently, COVID-19 tests are priced differently in each EAC partner states, while containment measures are varied. Tanzania and Burundi are now charging a standard rate of $100 for both nationals and foreigners. Kenya is charging $60, South Sudan is charging $120 for foreigners and $75 for nationals, while Uganda is charging $50 for travelers. The CEO of East African Business Council, Dr. Matokei, says, I quote, the EAC Secretariat should fast-track regional coordination and harmonization of measures on COVID-19 for economic resilience and growth over the EAC bloc, end of quote. Dr. Matokei also called for the establishment of a common quarantine period in the region and fast-tracking of the waiting time for COVID-19 test results. He said the lack of harmonization of COVID-19 testing rates in accredited laboratories and uncoordinated waiting time for the test result is disrupting cross-border trade. COVID-19 related non-tariff barriers continue to hinder cross-border trade due to different measures on COVID-19 in the region. Different preventive and restrictive measures undertaken by EAC partner states to control the spread of COVID-19 have significantly slowed down trade, movement of persons, and integration. Reporting for iRadio, I am Kelly Abale.
This is iRadio News. Miss Amna Lago, the wife of Anyanya leader Joseph Lago, has passed on in London, the family has announced. According to a statement from the Joseph Lago Foundation, Mama Amna died yesterday in a hospital in London of COVID-19 complications. Miss Amna Lago was admitted in December 2020 after testing positive for the coronavirus pandemic. 2 days later, Joseph Lago also tested positive for the virus and was admitted. His family later said Joseph was making improvements and was out of danger. Authorities in Zara County have raised an alarm over the presence of Chadian nomadic pastoralists, citing insecurity threats to locals. Commonly known as Ambororo, the pastoralists are reportedly in bushes of Ringasi and Bakusura, Payam of Nzara County and part of Bangasu in Yambio County of Western Equatorial State. Residents accuse the pastoralists of destroying farms and vegetation. Some are also blamed for stealing food items from homes whenever people are not around. Some say the presence of a large number of cattle also creates water shortages in the area. John Sani Andrew is the acting executive director of Nzara County.
When they enter the farm, they destroy the farm. Even water in the stream, they complete the water from people plus the farm from. The exact number cannot be known because they are in groups. Even they are staying in different locations in the bush. The family cannot exactly identify the number. There are very many. Even in Bosco, they are there also. They are in good number.
Now the county authority is warning some citizens against trading with the Ambororo, saying the practice would keep them in the area. Sani Andrew says,
they always move to them and they are always keeping them. When they take goods to them and selling things to them, then it makes them not to go away. It is happening. We, the local government in the country, you already stop people from going there. People are moving at tonight. So what we decide now is that any person whom we find being done, that person may be arrested, and what is taken to might be taken away from him so that he may come back, not taking anything to them again.
Ambororo is nomadic cattle herders originally from Cameroon, Chad, Nigeria, Mali, and Niger. Previously, the state government had instructed the Ambororo to drive out their cattle from Western Equatorial State, but the orders fell on deaf ears. Since 2010, over 100,000 herds of Ambororo cattle were said to have been evacuated from Western Equatorial State. You are still listening to iRadio News, and before approaching stories coming from the region and the international scene. A civil society activist is calling on the parties to the revitalized peace agreement to urgently graduate peace soldiers across training sites in the country. This is after some soldiers at military training centers say they feel like prisoners after spending a year at the training site without being graduated. The director of the Community Empowerment for Progress organization, SEPO, says there is a concern that peace parties have relaxed in implementing the security sector reforms as per the revitalized peace agreement. Eddie Moniakani is now calling on the peace parties to urgently respond to the frustrations expressed by some soldiers and graduate them to safeguard the peace deal.
Long-term peace and stability in South Sudan is not determined by successful political processes. is much more determined by successful security sector transformation and reform. Political seat will never contribute for successful transitioning of South Sudan from violence to peace, apart from successful security sector transformation and reform. We are urging the presidency to urgently respond to the soldiers' expressed frustration. We beg you, as our leaders, kindly respond to the issue of the delay of graduation of the unified forces.
Yakani spoke to iRadio earlier today. Forces belonging to different parties to the revitalized peace agreement were assembled at the various training sites across the country in January last year. The forces were trained as part of the unification of opposition and government armies, but their graduation has been postponed several times by the Joint Defense Board. Some of the soldiers recently told the iRadio that they completed the training but have not received a word on when they will be graduated and deployed. They also complain of lack of food and medicines. This is iRadio News, and now my colleague Jale Richard joins us with the stories from the region and the international scene. Hello, Jale.
Hello, Oja. Beginning in the region, the authorities in Uganda are investigating the large-scale death of fish on Lake Victoria, the continent's largest freshwater lake. The Fisheries Ministry has warned the public not to eat the dead fish and to bury them. It is not clear yet what quantities have washed up on the shores, but photos shared on social media by people living around the lake saw dozens of lifeless fish washed up ashore. Elsewhere, videos showing armed militia mobilizing on the outskirts of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, have been shared online to distract elections. Local media reported that commanders of the militia have threatened that they will act if the government begins the election process in Mogadishu without agreement. These threats come after the federal government over the weekend said it will hold the disputed election without the participation of Jubaland and Puntland states and other candidates. The election led to concern about the existence of the system of governance in Somalia. And finally, the U.S. Army is investigating a psychological operations officer who led a group of people from North Carolina to the rally in Washington, D.C. that led up to the deadly riot in the U.S. Capitol by supporters of President Donald Trump. Commanders at Fort Bragg are reviewing Captain Emily Rainey's involvement in last week's events in the nation's capital, but she said she acted within military regulations and that no one in her group broke the law. Rainey said she led 100 members of Maury County Citizens for Freedom, which describes itself as a non-partisan network promoting conservative values, to Washington, D.C. to stand against election fraud and support Trump. Those are the latest stories making headlines in the international arena. And back to you, Wajay Manuel.
Thank you, my colleague Jale Richard. And of course, here comes Kelly Abale with the latest sports news.
Thank you. A look onto sports stories making headlines this afternoon. South Sudan basketball senior men's player Emmanuel Malau has signed a one-year contract for professional club Sandat Masrajan in Iran. The 27-year-old was a key figure in the road to Afrobasket 2021, posting 11.0 ppg and 7.2 rpg across all tournaments. Last year, Malau played in Australian National Basketball League 1 for Albury Wado Bandits, averaging 10.9 pg, 5.6 rpg and 1.4 bpg in 2019-2020 season, and his move to Iran becomes his fifth year as a professional basketball player. South Sudan and former Express FC centre-back Bernard Agele is having trials at Tanzanian champions Simba Sports Club. Agele became a free agent after leaving Malaysian side UITM FC last year. He has capped 15 times with the Bright Stars and last played for the national team in 2019. Olympic long jump silver medalist Lovo Majuang has been provisionally suspended for 3 breaches of anti-doping rules in 12 months. The 30-year-old South African, who has battled drug addiction in the past, would be banned for 2 years for the whereabouts failures. The delayed Tokyo 2020 Olympic are scheduled to start on 23rd July 2021. Lovo is among the favorites to win a gold in Tokyo after winning the 2017 World and 2018 Commonwealth titles. In 2012, he was banned from athletics for 18 months after testing positive for a crystal meth. Finally, in the world of sports this afternoon, Paris Saint-Germain boss Mauricio Pochettino is reportedly determined to bring Manchester United midfielder Paul Pogba to the French champions during this summer's transfer window. Pogba has played his way back into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first 11 in recent weeks, but the 27-year-old is widely expected to leave Old Trafford at the end of the season. Juventus and Real Madrid have long been regarded as the favorites for the French international, who has just 18 months left to run on his contract with the Red Devils. The former Le Havre youngster has scored twice and provided 3 assists in 21 appearances for the 20-time English champions during the 2020-2021 campaign. Thanks for listening to iRadio Sports News. My name is Kelly Abale.
Thank you, Kelly Abale, with the sports news. And of course, that brings us to the end of this particular bulletin. But here is the look at our main stories. The South Sudan ambassador to Uganda is warning South Sudanese to stay at home as Ugandans vote in the general elections this week. The East African Business Council is urging for lowering and harmonization of COVID-19 related charges in the region.